A U.S. airman was just killed by an uncommanded discharge from his SIG P320. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard about this, so let's talk about it. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Adam, aka The Hot and Fuzzy, and today we're going to be talking about the SIG P320. Okay, so the SIG P320 was adopted back in 2017, and since then we have seen at least 8 different instances of uncommanded discharges and different things like that going on. I'm sure many people have read the Reddit posts about people dropping them back in the day. And from what I've seen, the whole drop safety issue that we saw before the adoption by the military has kind of skewed the reputation and literally put a bad taste in the mouths of people. Because even though SIG fixed that drop issue, we have still had all these different issues with uncommanded discharges. If you haven't heard about what happened on the Wyoming base, a U.S. airman went to sit down at his desk, pulled out his SIG P320, SIG M17, pulled it out while it was in the holster, and he sat it on his desk. And the moment that he sat it down on his desk, it went off, shooting him in the chest and killing him. And this is an absolute tragedy, and it's awful that it took to this point of somebody dying for people to take this seriously. In the gun world, it's kind of been a meme for a while about the SIG P320. Hey, don't drop it. Hey, don't do this, don't do that. It might go off. But I think it was kind of, swept under, and because people, I don't think, really understood what was going on. Like I said before, SIG originally had issues with a drop safety back when these things first dropped. And they did do a big recall on them, and it was actually very difficult for them at this time because they had just started pushing them out onto the market, and it was really expensive. But SIG kind of this whole time has toyed around and not given great explanations for exactly what has been going on. Like I said, they fixed the drop safety, but we've still had a lot of issues with uncommanded discharges. And I would love to be able to get my hand on like a dozen M17s to be able to play with them and rack the slides and just see if I can get anything to happen. I mean, here's a couple of things I would do with them if I got a hold of a few of them. Hey guys, I just found this bag of recalled P320s. Does anybody want to play hot potato? You guys remember in Jackass #2, the bit called Electric Avenue, where they ran down the hallway with all of the tasers hanging from it and they had to like go through the obstacle course? Imagine that same thing, but with a bunch of loaded P320s. Well, nobody wanted to play hot potato, so I guess I don't really need these. Hey, do you guys remember those plastic clacker toys on a string from when we were a kid? Don't try this with a couple of SIG P320s. But all jokes aside, this has been a continuous issue for the past several years. There have been, like I said, at least 8 different instances of uncommanded discharges from these guns between the drop safety and whatever is going on with this sear issue that's causing these uncommanded discharges. Because a gun shouldn't ever go off by just sitting it down, even if it's cocked, racked, and loaded. That's just crazy to me that it went off, and there is definitely some kind of issue, and I'd be curious to see what the investigation finds from this exact gun. But we've been seeing issues with the SIG P320 really since its adoption. And if you've seen Ian from Forgotten Weapons video on this, he makes an excellent point. And it's that the SIG P320 is kind of based off of the design of the SIG P250. And a lot of the problems really do probably stem from that old design. And this whole thing of SIG not owning up to the actual thing when it happens and not just taking in all of the guns, recalling them, and stopping that as soon as it happens really shot themselves in the foot. I don't know if SIG realizes how much damage this is doing to their marketing, but you could not pay me enough to be a member of SIG Sauer's PR team right now. Even though SIG Sauer is considered a high-end gun brand, this is going to put a bad taste in the mouth, and it already has for many consumers of their products. This event in and of itself is going to, I'm sure, is going to keep people from even wanting to be involved with SIG in the future. The Air Force has since pulled all M17s and SIG P320s out of service while they do this investigation, and I'm kind of wondering how that's going to affect all the other weapons from SIG that the military has adopted and using. Like the Spear, the MCX, all those other different variants. I'm wondering if it's going to end up causing conflict and causing that contract to be pulled. Who knows? We might see a total different sidearm coming out of the U.S. military. And I think at this point, not that many people would be upset to go back to Grandpappy's old 1911. And honestly, back when they were doing these trials, there was a lot of different good handguns that were contenders. You know, back whenever the M17 dropped, or the SIG P320, it has the modular fire control group. That was a big thing because you could take this and swap it between frames. You could have small, medium-sized frames and whatever barrel lengths you want and really swap it around. But since then, there are a few other guns that have kind of fit that niche, like the Springfield Echelon. It has a modular fire control group, and it has a really good drop safety, and you don't have to worry about stuff like that. I get it, it's a Croatian pistol, but come on, they figured this out. And even something like a Glock 17, you can load this thing with a round in the chamber and use it as a hammer if you want to, and this thing's not gonna go off. I get it, it didn't get the contract because it doesn't have a safety, but can't we just train people that the real safety is between your ears? I don't know, it seems like a lot is going on at SIG, and a lot has been swept under, and and they haven't wanted to own up to a lot of the things that have happened. I like to think of what would have happened if something like this had happened to High Point, or another company that like has that kind of reputation. If something like this happened to High Point, we wouldn't even hear about it. They would have fixed it before it even came out, because they're so worried about their reputation of being crap anyway that they're not going to let anything get out like that, I'm sure. And it's just weird to me that a company like SIG that's that big would just not acknowledge that and not recall them and not do more with figuring out what's going on. Because I've talked to guys at the gun store, and I've taken the M17 apart and looked at it. I've had people go over it with me, and I don't think anybody really exactly knows what's going on. And I don't really think that SIG even knows what's going on, really. I've heard from different people that if you jingle the slide to the left and right and hold the trigger slightly depressed, it can go off. I've heard that it can drop if you just rack it a certain way and do certain things. And these are all just myths, and I would love to be able to test this out for myself, but we really just don't know at this point what exactly is going on with the 320. And we're gonna have to wait until SIG releases it and lets us know. I really do think that SIG has done some irreparable damage to themselves throughout this whole process. They're probably going to end up having to take the M17 completely out of production, if I'm totally honest, and the 320. If they're smart, they should really, I think, build upon the legacy of the SIG P365. You've already got the P65 macro and all the other different variants of it. They should just make a SIG P365 combat. And because it's a good, solid design, everybody likes them, they're tried and true. Just make like a full-size combat version of that and just rock that. I don't know, but I'm really curious to see how all this unfolds in the future. I was working on some other projects, but I really felt like I had to just stop and kind of throw my opinion out there about what's been happening with SIG and all this stuff here recently, because it's just crazy. And I really hope we learn more, because I would really love to learn exactly what is going on. So tell me what you guys think about the SIG P320 Fiasco down in the comments section down below, and give me suggestions for any new guns you want to see on the channel. Always open to suggestions, guys, and I'm really excited to keep doing things and keep bringing out the content for you guys. So I just want to take a second to thank each and every one of you for watching today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.